Every digital interaction we have relies on data that never changes. We use alphanumeric passwords, numerical pins, and fixed facial maps to verify our existence to a network. This diagram illustrates the core vulnerability of static data. Because these strings of code and biometric markers are permanent, a single successful exfiltration allows an attacker to duplicate the credential indefinitely. This persistence creates a perpetual state of risk. We are forced to treat our identity as a stationary target, waiting for deepfake algorithms or database breaches to eventually bypass our defenses. Consider an identity defined by its rate of change, a kinetic signature that transforms based on movement. Authenticity is impossible to maintain as long as we reduce the complexity of a human being to a stationary, recordable file. This single, bright particle vibrating in a void represents a new foundation for digital presence. Its movement is erratic and organic. The UI system replaces rigid code with continuous motion. It uses the principles of atomic physics to create a signature that exists only in a state of flux. As the particle expands, it develops into a complex atomic structure. Continuous energy pathways flow around a center, creating a unique pattern of momentum. By transitioning from static records to dynamic frameworks, your identity becomes a living entity defined by its specific pattern of motion. In this system, the physical user acts as the governing nucleus, providing the energy that keeps the structure in motion. Downloading the UI app replaces the traditional process of entering names, dates, and photos. You begin instead with a dormant geometric seed. The interface generates a three-dimensional shape that surrounds your digital presence, awaiting the first input of user intent. Because you remain at the center of this geometry, your foundational data is never exposed to the network. You retain total control over the energy that shapes the exterior. Navigation within the app happens through choice. You interact with specific points and questions by swiping in different directions. In this 3D lattice, we can see the central core. Every swipe translates into kinetic energy, dictating its growth. The structure reacts directly. Specific external nodes activate and expand based on your choices. Your own interactions physically engineer a dense, asymmetrical mandala. The resulting angles and nodes are dictated by your unique decision-making process, creating a signature as distinct as a biological fingerprint. The UI experience uncovers your internal geometry through this continuous evolution. Zooming out reveals the massive macro ecosystem of the UI platform. Thousands of active, living geometries float and pulse within a shared, secure network. Connection in this space is governed by a mechanism called resonance. When two shapes meet, they overlap, testing structural alignment. This process bypasses superficial data, looking only at the compatibility of the two geometries. Incompatible shapes naturally drift apart. However, when nodes and angles align perfectly, the structures lock together, creating a stable, energetic connection. This system changes the nature of digital security. Traditional server-side breaches rely on capturing a stored credential, but in UI, there is no static record to steal. Validation requires real-time momentum of active user interaction. Without this continuous energy, a captured shape becomes an inert, unusable fragment that cannot grant access or ever be replicated. You are defined solely by the living, uncopyable evolution of your unique shape, entirely separate from any static, exploitable data records. Download UI and begin your evolution.